Assalamu alaikum. Dear students, I am Dr. Khurram Shahzad. Today I want to introduce critical discourse analysis. I would love to talk about its origin, its history, and what it is all about. Since we know that the very first word in critical discourse analysis is critical, usually people take it something which is negative. For example, that when people they are passing some judgment on something, so people do not like that somebody is passing judgment on them. That is why criticism, critical, or passing judgments, they are the negative connotations of this word. But when we talk about critical discourse analysis, here critical means enlightenment. Here critical means liberation. Here critical means freedom. Freedom from all those thoughts, stereotypical behaviors and values that we take them for granted, that we think that they are part of our life, that we take that they are common sense or commonsensical. So Foucault defines critical that the art of being not controlled by others, not governed by others, means that we should be free. And the concept of power, it plays a very important role when we talk about critical discourse analysis. Now Bloomberg, when he starts his book Critical Discourse Analysis, the very first sentence he writes is, power is something good. Now those who have got power, for example, the people who are running this department, they will always say, yes, this department is being run, is being operated properly, effectively, because we are in power. And power is not something which is bad. They will talk about that power is something very good. So same is the case, anyone who is running an institution, anyone who has established and taking care of an institution, of course will be in power. So for them power is not bad, but at the same time we should remember that power can be bad as well, because when there is manipulation, when some people they are manipulating others, misusing others, or when power is being manipulated, then it means it becomes abuse. So power is good and bad at the same time. It depends that who are the actors, who are using it, who are the victims, who have become victimized of this use of power. So whenever power is there will be some actors, there will be discourse, who will be manipulating this discourse, and they will be using this power, and there will be people who will be victimized. So victimized are not going to like this power or this use of power. And the concept of power, it has been theorized. It was theorized by Plato, by Machiavelli, by Marx, by Gramsci, Foucault and Althusser. So Bloomberg, in simple words, describes discourse that it's a general mode of semiosis. General mode of semiosis. Signs, symbols, words, sounds that we are uttering or words that we are writing. It's a general mode of semiosis. Meaningful symbolic behavior. It is language in action. So when the language is in action, when we are interacting with the people, when there is a speaker, there is a listener, so language is in action, some event is being talked about. Also when some event is being talked about, it means there are certain participants, there are certain actors, and these actors, they are enacting the discourse, and they are talking about some topic. So there will be a topic which is under discussion, there will be certain goals that you want to achieve through this discourse. There will be a channel, mode, key, what is your tone, whether you are formal or informal, what is your relationship, Your values, because you are part of the society. You are working as an actor in an institution where power is everywhere, where discourse is everywhere, where you are being, where discourse is being talked about, where you are working as an actor. And when you use discourse, okay, it carries out certain tasks because you are speaking different kinds of acts, and you are confined within the genre in which you are working. So when we talk about its history, we should remember that critical discourse analysis, it comes out of critical linguistics, and it comes out of anthropology. It has got its roots in critical theory. Okay, even the word critical, in my last class, one of the students, she passed a comment that everything is critical these days. It is critical, yes. So there is critical linguistics, there is critical applied linguistics, there is critical theory, okay. And so far as the origin is concerned, it is eclectic. So we have got Saussurean linguistics, we have got these days Derridean concepts of linguistics. And when we talk about Saussure, who theorized linguistics, talking about that there is a sign, there is a signifier, and the word that we are uttering, the sounds that we are uttering, it is the signifier, and there is a signified, and there is no one-on-one relationship between the signifier and the signified. It is arbitrary, it is illogical. But sign and signifier and signified, they are tied together. When they are tied together, when they are fixed, they produce meaning. So, of course, in critical theory, we have got formalism. So, very first, people who were, which was a critical term in the history of linguistics, in the history of literary theory, it was formalism. Previously, the approach of the people, it was autobiographical or biographical. People were reading about the authors, about the era in which the author was living, and they were trying to understand that what were their values, what was their his culture, and when they were producing literature, that what form it was taking, because the literature was influenced by the by the ideology, by the values, by the culture in which it was produced, by the political scenario in which it was produced. But formalism, it emphasized form. It talked about form. That form, the words, they are very important. The language itself, it is very important. So after formalism, and in America, we have got new criticism. So new criticism also talks about words on the page. That words on the page, they are very important. Of course, interpretation was carried out, and sometimes people, when they were asked that how did you do the analysis of this poem, they did not have the answer. They could not talk about the rules and regulations or the methodology that they were using to analyze that poem or a literary piece of text. So it was based on intuition. But with the advent of science in social sciences, everything became scientific. So today, language or linguistics is a scientific study of language. And we have got three different approaches, author-oriented approaches, where you try to read the history of the author, you try to understand the culture, the political situation, the scenario of the author, the values of the author, where he was living, what was the time, how far he was influenced by the things which were going on in his era or her era. And then there are text-oriented approaches. They focus on the text. For them, each and everything is coming out of the text and going back to the text. And in text, we get language, we find semiosis, we find symbols, signs, visual data which is there on a piece of paper, and then there are reader-oriented approaches. They try to understand that what is going on inside the mind of the reader. What are the cognitive abilities which the reader is applying in order to understand the text. Now coming back to CDA, critical discourse analysis. Okay, so formalism, literary theory, they played a very important role. New criticism, okay. So of course, they always had some point of reference where they started talking about something. Derrida was also basically a structuralist. From formalism, we moved towards structuralism. All these things, they have got structures. There are certain fundamental rules and regulations, and with the help of those rules and regulations, language is produced. Because we know what is the difference between pa and ba sound. So we have pig, we have big, we have bit. So every time you change the first sound, pig, you get a new word, bit, you get a new word, big, you get a new word. So pa and ba, they are different, and the relationship is based on negativity. This is Saussurean concept. Saussure said that there is negative relationship within language. The language items, the language elements that we are talking about. He also talked about syntagmatic and paradigmatic relationship. So in syntagmatic relationship, we have got subject, verb and object. Ali plays cricket. So the relationship within the sentence is syntagmatic. Instead of Ali, you can bring Waqas and you can say Waqas plays cricket. Instead of plays, you can say watch. So Waqas watches a cricket match on television. So instead of cricket, we can have a hockey. Waqas plays hockey. So here you are removing Ali and bringing Waqas. So the relationship between Ali and Waqas is paradigmatic. And the relationship within the sentence, subject, verb and object, that is syntagmatic. So in Saussurean linguistics, we understand that there is a relationship between the signifier and the signified, and signifier is tied with the signified, and when they are together, they produce meaning. And there is a system in the language which is working, and we try to understand that system, and that is paradigmatic and syntagmatic relationship, and the relationship is based on negativity. And in structuralism, there is a concept of binary system. So in literature, we usually come across, that there is goodness and there is wickedness, and these forces, they are working against each other. And the authors, they will show that in the beginning that wickedness is very powerful. It is going to move upward. It is going to look to us that it is very superior, but in the end they will show that goodness wins and wickedness loses. You watch a drama, they will always show there are opposing forces, and there will be again goodness and wickedness, and in the end goodness will win. They will always give you a moral lesson out of that drama, out of that movie that you are watching, or any piece of literature, literary text, poem, novel, drama that you are reading. And there will be a lesson. And in the end, you will find that wickedness loses and goodness wins. So structuralism, it talks about the basic structures. Basic structures. This building is made up of a structure. It has got foundation. Book has got a structure. There is classification within the structure. So we have got novel, which is another thing, poem, which is another thing, drama, another thing. Within drama, there is comedy, there is tragedy. Within poems, there are different kinds of poems. They have their own internal and external structures. Human body, it has got a structure. This building, it has got a structure. the book, the nomenclature of the book, that literary theory, you will go that if you have got 10 books on literary theory, you will put them together. You will classify them under the nomenclature literary theory, pragmatics, semantics, because it becomes easy for human beings to categorize them, to categorize books into different categories, to try to understand for our own benefit that these books belong to this subject and these books belong to this subject. And under the genre, for example, that this is a poem, it should come here, that this is a drama, it should go there, and within drama, that this is comedy and this is tragedy. And it has got its own structure, introduction, and then the story will move forward, and there is, rising action, and then there is denouement in the end. So this is how the story works. It has got structure, it has got characters, it has got round characters, it has got flat characters, it has got good people, it has got bad people. There is plot, there is story, there is time, there is a focalizer, there is a person who is telling the story. So they have got structures. But when Derrida, he was reading structuralism, he took the ideas from Saussure and he uses the ideas of Saussure, but then he adds something into it, and he says that the relationship between signifier and signified is not fixed. And he gives the concept of different. It has got two meanings. Differ, different, one meaning, differ, to differ, which means to be different from, and the other meaning is differ, multavi karna, putting off. So pa is different from ba, man is different from woman, day is different from night. So symbolically, day shows that something good, light, night shows that there is darkness, okay, and this is how they symbolize. So night is something which is related to bad. It has got its own connotations, it has got its own meanings. So when binary is created, the Western metaphysics, it says that something which is on the left side of the binary, it is privileged. So fortunately or unfortunately, when man and woman, they are compared, or they are there on the binary, man is on the left side and woman is on the right side. Day is on the left side and night is on the right side. Honesty is on the left side and dishonesty is on the right side. West is on the left side and east is on the right side, and everything which is coming on the left side, it is privileged. Speech is on the left side and writing is on the right side. So speech was privileged. This is how they categorize the society. This is how they made their own systems. Derrida wants to erase this binary. When Derrida says that there is no one-on-one relationship between signifier and signified, and they are not tied together, they are slippery, and to differ, which means that pa sound is different from da sound is different from ba sound. Okay? So a relationship is made up on negativity, and they are not tied together. And the second meaning of different, differ, to put off. So it is very difficult, to explain the meaning of the word love. Somebody will say affection, somebody will say, like, and you will give a new word and again new word. So you are deferring the meaning of the words, you are putting them off onto some other word, and in the end you reach a word which has got nothing to do with the very first word that you started from. So this is how language works. So he says relationship between signifier and signified is not fixed. It is fluid. It is slippery. So he wants to erase the binary which is created within the structuralist paradigm. And when the binary is, erased, it creates its own meaning, it creates its own problems as well. Then so many topics that people in the beginning did not talk about, now they talk about those topics as well. Now they write about those topics as well. So binary is erased between man and woman, and we say everybody is equal. So they demand now equal rights. No doubt rights are given, but every society, the way they decide, the way they define equality, it is also different. So we should understand that in Derridean concept, there is another concept that is of center. When we talk about structures, they have got some center. And center is the focal point, that everything is coming out of the center and going back to the center. And when we theorize knowledge, when we talk about knowledge, when we talk about epistemology, when we talk about metaphysics, so there was a time when human beings were in the middle, or there was a time when God was in the middle. So everything was coming out of religion, everything was coming out of God, everything was going back to religion, everything was going back to God. And then God was taken out of that place, and human beings, they took that place, or sometimes intellect, it took that place, reason, it took that place. So when reason came in the center, so everything was revolving around that center. And when there is a center, there are margins. When there is center, there are peripheries. So something which is in the center, the actors who are in the center, they are always privileged. And something which is on the margin, something which is on the periphery, they are always non-privileged people. They are never given privilege. And human beings who are working in the society, and society, it has got structures, it has got institutions. So in all these institutions, you will find that somebody or some people, they are in the center, they are powerful, and some of the people who are not in the center, they are on the periphery. And when they are on the periphery, they are marginalized. So they know that who is important and who is not important, and who can make the decision and who cannot make the decision. And whenever there is a center, there is periphery, there are boundaries, or the people who are marginalized, they will feel that there is inequality which exists in the society. So what is the agenda of critical discourse analysis? Giving awareness, trying to understand that why there is inequality which exists in the society, why there is inequality which is there in every institution, why people are in the center and why some people are in the margin. So this is how society works. So then there are certain things when we talk about critical discourse analysis, that there is always a social nature of discourse. Discourse is produced in the society. It has got its own actors. It has got people who are producing the discourse. It has got people who are consuming the discourse. It has got people who also, are influenced by the discourse. And when discourse is produced, agenda is there. When discourse is produced, ideology is there. When discourse is produced, identity is there. When discourse is produced, power is there. When discourse is produced, inequality is there. When discourse is produced, certain people who are the producers of the discourse, they are sitting in the center, and there are people who are consuming the discourse, they are on the periphery. They are there on the margin. So it is very difficult to understand that how or what mechanism we are going to make to eradicate power abuse. Because social actors are there. Discourse is social. Discourse is produced in the society. Discourse is produced in the academia. Discourse is produced in research. Discourse is produced in institutions. There are people who are the producers of discourse. They are part of the establishment. They are people who are running the bigger, institutions. And then there are certain meta discourses as well. So there is social nature of discourse, and then there is object of critique. So in discourse there is voice. So voice, Blomet, means inequality. Or voice means, for example, that how a person makes himself or herself understandable to the other person. And when you are understood by the other people, so you have got voice. And when people are unable to understand you, or you are unable to make yourself understandable to the other people, there are problems. So then there are different people who gathered together in the past, in 1980s, like Ruth Wodak, like Paul Chilton, like Van Dyke, like James Paul G. And they have their own perspectives of discourse. And they have their own ideas about discourse. Some of the critical discourse analysts, they are socialists. They look at the social issues, they look at the social problems. Some of the discourse analysts, they deal with cognition. So their theorization of discourse is different, their perspective on discourse is different, and the people who are socialists or who talk about the social aspect of discourse, their perspective to some extent is different. Because critical discourse analysis, it has got its roots in anthropology and sociology as well. So the concept of social cannot be separated from the discourse. Culture cannot be separated from discourse. Social actors, the producers of discourse, they cannot be separated from discourse. And there are different ways that discourse works. It can be a revelation, it can be self-reflective, where we see that who is the producer of discourse, who is the listener of discourse, and what are their roles, how they are producing their discourse, what is their agenda, from what perspective they are producing, and what is the knowledge, what is the domain, what is the genre in which the person is working. Because discourse, it has got certain constraints. You are not 100% free to say whatever you want to free. You try to see that who is in front of you, what they want to hear, what they want to listen from you. And accordingly you produce the discourse. You know that what are their likes and dislikes. You know that what you can say and what you cannot say. What the academia will allow you to say, what the institution will allow you to say, and what it is not going to allow you to say. So Foucauldian concept is that it has got certain constraints. So Foucault, when he was talking about the history of sexuality and archaeology of knowledge, and when he theorized the archaeology, the concept of archaeology, the knowledge, and he found that transmission of knowledge from one generation to the other generation is not very smooth. There are certain gaps. And when he talks about archive, so he means to say by archive that the set of rules at a given point in time which defines that what people could say, what they could not say, how they could perform through their language, through their discourse. So this is the concept of archaeology. So in the end, I would like to summarize that in this short video, I have talked about some of the points of critical discourse analysis, and I have talked about the critical discourse analysis. It has its origin in critical linguistics, in critical theory, in anthropology, in sociology, and it starts from Saussurean linguistics and the concept of formalism and new criticism and structuralism, that how they paved the way for Derrida, for post-structuralism. And The very basic difference was that in structuralism the signifier was attached with the signified, but in post-structuralism, okay, the concept of the different, to differ or to differ, okay, that plays a very important role. That signifier and signified are no more fixed. The relationship between them is fluid. Then I have talked about only one definition of critical discourse analysis, saying that it's a semiology, meaningful, systematic way of uttering the words. It has got relationship with the society, going beyond the sentence. And we have talked about, Ruth Wodak and Foucault and some of the concepts from Michel Foucault. So thank you very much.